So as you may know, we have been working on our TR19 kitchen grease extract survey templates, and we have our version 1 available. We've got a few clients that will be testing it in the coming days, but we think we're pretty close to finished. So what I want to do in this video is talk through our report template and just walk through a few of our interpretations of some of the finer parts of the TR19. And these are areas that we think may get typically overlooked just because they're kind of in the small print, but they are quite important. So what I've got here is I've got a job already set up. I've collected a little bit of data, not too much, and I've got my report here. So typically to set up a job and collect data, only takes a couple of minutes on our platform. It's something we've covered in previous videos, and we'll do a comprehensive walkthrough in the coming weeks. Okay, so let's just take a look at this report. Now, on the mobile side of things, you can see we have a few sections. We've got the scope, site description, and cover photo. Now, I think a lot of the time you're probably just looking at adding a cover photo, and if your scope is limited, you could just pop that in here. These are all optional fields, but the cover photo is really good for making that cover page really pop. The next thing is we have the frequency of cleaning. So in the TR19, it's a requirement to state how frequently the system should be cleaned. And there are two methods of calculating that. You can either do it on the initial clean, where you're looking at how much grease is going to be produced, in your estimates, and how often the site will be active. The other method is to use predictive accumulation, where you've got a couple of prior reports, and you can see the rate at which it's accumulating grease. So in this instance, we've got initial clean, and I'll just leave that as it was. Then we've got a few inspection points. You can see I've just added a few in here, and I'll walk through those shortly. And then we've also got schematics. So let's just take a look at the report. You can see there's our cover photo. Nice restaurant there, and we have our usual report details section. So this is mostly data that we add when we set up the job. So you can see the company that's done the work, the survey. You can see their client, which project of works, and the address, and also the surveyors and the date at which they were on site. We've got a quick table of contents, and then as per TR19, front and center, we've got the mean thickness for the system right there. So this is one of these areas where we think the TR19 is open to interpretation because basically there are two recommendations within the spec. The first is when the grease thickness levels go over 500 microns, you should urgently have a spot clean of that area. But also, if the average thickness of the entire system is over 200 microns, you should do a system-wide clean. Now, this is where I think it's it's important to think about the nuance there. If you urgently clean those areas with thicker grease levels, then your average levels will also drop. So we've made sure that we report both of those values. So you can see, if I just scroll down here onto our inspection points, we've got a few very thick areas and a few that are below the limits. So because the average is actually quite high, it's 867 microns, that would require a complete system clean. However, if you do those urgent localized cleaning of the hotspots, that's these 4 red areas, the average thickness then drops down to 175. Now that's pretty close to that 200 micron limit for cleaning, but it's still below. And so if we were to add more inspection points, let's say 0, so I'm going to say that's a high risk area, and I'm going to do a visual assessment of 0 microns, and this is just to pull that average down. You can see when I save that, it's now down to 117. So in this instance, okay, we're about halfway there. And that's actually another point that we've included on here. So we know that cleaning frequency, which is calculated from this frequency of cleaning section here, is 2 months. And you can see that's almost halfway between halfway to that point there. So in our recommendation, and this is automatic, you can see that there's a predicted date to exceed 200 micron limits is the 12th of September. So the recommendation here is really to have that system-wide clean before that date. And that's just something we can do automatically by looking at the values entered in the system. So if I just scroll down a little bit further, you can see we've got a few other little nuances in the system. So if you look at the order of these, you can see we have this very thick area here. It's quite far from the canopy, so it's a fairly low ignition risk. But then we've got this canopy and risers, 500 microns, 600, 750, 250, 100, 0. So it kind of looks like it's in thickness order, but not quite, because you can see that 500 has bubbled a little bit higher up. And that's because there is, again, another nuance in the TR19. And I'll just show you that now. So you can see in 5.6, I'm not going to show the whole document because you have to pay for it. Basically, it's saying that you should consider the risk level based on the location of the grease. So, and they've got two examples here. At 500 microns within the canopy plenum, which is immediately above the heat source, it's a far higher risk than a small high point on a turning vane many meters away from the heat source. So what we've included in our template on those inspection points, if I just look at this turning vane, we have an ignition proximity risk. So that's our interpretation of the TR19. And we've just given it three categories: low, medium, and high. So high would be, directly above the heat source. Medium might be in the ductwork elsewhere in the kitchen, and low, up on the roof, towards the fans. And so we factor in your choice here when we are ordering these. So if I change this turning vane into a high ignition proximity risk, it's going to reorder on here to be higher up. And that's just something we can do automatically. I'll just put that back to where it was. And that's just something we do automatically as a good interpretation of the TR19. Now the TR19 is pretty specific as to what you should do in this situation. You should clean all four of these areas. But basically what we've done is we've just made sure that those higher risk areas appear higher up in the listing here. So the next thing we have are inaccessible areas. So I was running out of photos, so I've used ducts, and they also appear in the report. And then if I keep going into the inspection details, you can see all the data that we're collecting on site. So if I look at that one here, duct 5 meter away from canopy, I've got medium proximity risk. For some reason, I've got limited access. There's live service supply. I'm not going to touch that. And I've done a visual assessment, which is quite thick. And if I included a recommendation, that would also appear here. So clean immediately. And that will appear here if available. So again, we order these by our perceived risk level, which is based on that thickness. We just keep going until eventually we get to our no access areas and then our appendices as well. So the appendices, we've got schematics. Obviously this would be a duct diagram rather than a building floor plan. That was just what I had available. And we've got a little rehash of some of the frequency calculations from the TR19, as well as a little bit of info about our ignition risk levels. So we're very excited to get this out in the public. Like I say, we've been chatting to a few of the sort of prominent people within the industry to try and make sure this is to a very high standard. And we are testing it in the field in the coming days and weeks. We think we're pretty close actually with the V1. So if you're interested in working with this to get your kitchen grease extract surveys, or we're actually going to do some more ventilation ones as well. So we're going to do a post-clean survey. We're doing fire damper testing surveys, and air quality tests as well. So if you want to chat to us about these templates, about using our system, please get in touch. You can go to flowmobile.app/contact and book a meeting with me and Paul, and we're happy to chat through the entire platform. We can demonstrate some of the other capabilities of the system as well. So I think I'll just leave it at that for now. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you all soon. Toodaloo.